Hi, Min. How are you?
I am good. How are you?
Hi, Mohit. How are you?
Not bad, Professor. How are you doing?
Doing a little bit, I don't know, down today because of the weather, I think.
Oh yeah, the flu's also like
Yeah.
affecting a lot of people, and yeah, the weather change. I usually get sick as well.
Yeah. So not feeling that great. Feeling a little bit different. I don't know. I'm really scared. I don't want to get that thing.
Hopefully, it's nothing.
Hopefully,
Try some ginger tea later.
I'll do that. I've already had my coffee though, so but still not any change. Feeling some kind of discomfort
Oh,
here.
that's sore throat.
Mm.
Do you have the rat test at home?
No, just finish, I think. Yeah. So that's the thing.
Hopefully, it's nothing because most of my friends are getting flu, not the COVID these days.
Yep. Hopefully, finger crossed.
And hopefully, it's not even the flu, just like the weather change.
Hopefully. Mohit, I have updated. I forgot to mention that I have updated your digital marketing one. So that was my mistake. I didn't put the marks on the overall presentation.
Oh, thank you so much, Professor. I'll check them now.
Yeah, please. It's all right, me. Hi, Michael. How are you?
Hi, Tam. Very good. And yourself?
Doing on and off. Feeling a bit cold today. I don't know what's been happening on in my body.
Winter's here, isn't it? It's freezing this morning.
Oh my God. I just feel a bit different in my sore throat. Like it's a kind of sore throat, but I feel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully not COVID or anything.
Oh no, don't say that. I don't want to get it again. So that's the thing. I don't want to get it.
I mean, that's how it started for me, but it didn't really progress any further than that, thankfully. So
Hopefully. The last time my daughter, she got it from her school, and her after that her mom got it from her, and then me, and we were 3 weeks isolation. So it remained 3 weeks. So yeah, my little one, she was very anxious. She wanted to go out, but we couldn't take her out. You know how the kids. Yeah. So she saw her friends are going to the playground and she's not able to do that. She became very upset.
yeah, well, better that than having a bad case of COVID, I suppose. At the end of the day.
Yeah, but some people are. I have one of my friends. He still didn't get COVID, so he was all good.
Oh wow.
He get the jab though, but yeah, he's lucky. And at the same time, so everything is good. Yeah. All right. I think we can start our discussion. Now, first of all, how you are progressing with your assignment? The second one.
Yeah, it's sort of been ticking along for me. I'm almost done, but I'll probably take some time to review it.
Okay.
Maybe based on this class.
Yeah. Good. The marks for the first one is available. Could you please check that?
Yes, Professor, just check. They are up there now.
Okay, all good?
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All good. Okay, now let's start on today's discussion.
Sorry.
Oh, hi, Jen. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Sorry, my mic was not working before. I just have a quick question about assignment 2.
Yes, please.
So, is it okay if we do 2 different campaign themes for the same segmentation?
Yeah, that's fine. No problem with that.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Hi, Jack.
Hi, how are you?
I'm surviving, Jack. How are you?
Did you say surviving?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm feeling better.
We are living a different world now, Jack. So just 2 years before I could say different kinds of answer, but now I cannot guarantee, Jack.
Yeah, you know what? I'm alive. That's what matters.
Exactly. That makes me at least happy that I'm alive.
Yes, exactly.
Well, alive and kicking, right? That's the word. Alive and
Yeah,
kicking.
somewhat kicking.
Yeah. All right.
Uh,
Okay. Good. Let's start our discussion, guys. So today we'll be discussing on social CRM, right? How we have moved forward from our existing or traditional CRM method or strategies, right? So why we are using CRM, that would be the first discussion point. And then we move forward to look into a kind of refinement on using CRM, right? So what kind of evolvement happened in social media, the age of social media with CRM, right? So what is the kind of shift we can look into and what benefits we can draw by using social CRM? So we'll try to look into what is social CRM, what kind of program or platforms we can use as social CRM, and how this literally benefit the marketers, and at the end, how we actually do measure the social CRM. All right. So if you recall, just recalling the last session discussion, right? So if you look into the last session, we did talk about the content marketing, different kinds of contents that we do post in social media platforms, right? So the images, the videos, right? Different ways we do deal with our hashtags and how we use different kinds of strategies, right? The content marketing strategy fits into 3 major components. We talked about it: creation, dissemination, and measurement. So that means we have to first design the content. It can be an image, it can be a video. Even we do talk about what would be the length of the video, what kind of, let's say, music we will be embedding into that. Let's say how we are using, let's say, or publishing or posting that one based on a particular scheduling strategy approach, and then how this information passed to the target audiences, and how we measure it effectively. Let's say the kind of active engagement, that means tweet, retweet, or repost or sharing, and what kind of, let's say, platform we are using to measure it, and how this literally help us to readjust our strategies, right? We talked about the process. That was the very interesting way to look into, not a kind of a scattered approach to use the content strategy, because it's a learning process, right? So each of these different kinds of campaign we do run by using, let's say, a social media strategy with the contents, all right? What would be the process? Any kind of contents or content appeal. A content can come with different kinds of appeals, right? So it can be fun, it can be joy, or it can be happiness, or sometimes it can be fear or guilt appeal if it is in, let's say, the whole social media strategy is designed to change the negative behavior of the target audiences, right? So in that case, how we are using all these different, let's say, contents to change or let's say motivate or persuade the target audiences or our consumers, right? So in content marketing planning, we look through different stages as a kind of process. Idea generation, why we will be using these contents, right? So then content mapping, so which content we will be using based on the idea generation is a kind of funneling approach where we have to look into 10 or 20 different ideas, but not all the ideas would be a kind of right fit, right? And then we look into, okay, from the idea and then the content mapping, we create the content, right? Based on our own capabilities or skills, or maybe we might rely on another or let's say third party to design the content, and then start posting that, right? So that means implementation and delivery. And after we looked into excuse me, after we look into all these contents is been distributed or delivered to different social media platform, what is the reaction, or what is the, let's say, content performance? And that's where we actually do evaluate. That means the kind of response we are receiving. It can go both ways, positive or negative though, but how we are learning, that is the debrief, the learning stages, right? So these are different ways we look into, right? So all the discussions that we had on all these different stages. Okay, now moving forward from the content planning steps, today we'll be looking into the social customer relationship management, right? So we will first look into what is customer relationship management, and then from there we will move towards the social customer relationship management. The customers are the key focal point for the marketers, and we all do agree on that. Because if the customers are not, then we will fall into the fallacy of marketing myopia, or trap into the marketing myopia, right? So whatever customers expect, what's their need, what's their want, we have to draw the design and create the value and deliver or distribute that particular value. So when we are using any strategy driven, let's say, for fulfilling the objective of the marketer, that means making the customer happy or satisfied. So it always benefits the marketers, right? And CRM is one of the kinds of that is strategy. So how we see CRM, if you look into the definition, right? A company-wide business strategy that is designed to optimize profitability. So the ultimate outcome is profitability, but how a particular company will generate the profitability until they are making their customers happy or satisfied, right? So if you are focusing on making the customers satisfied, that means you are somewhere or other, let's say, extending your retention. So we do talk about gain, but eventually the retention is more important than the gain, because if the retention is also goes with a kind of, let's say, churn problem, then we can see that the more customers are, let's say, leaving us. So in that case, we have to spend more, let's say, to keep those unhappy customers with us. So that's why constant strategy to make the customers happy are critical. So how we are using different kinds of approaches of CRM, right? So if you look into the fundamental propositions of CRM is not product, but the customers, right? So we have to focus on not the number of products or units of product we are selling, but the number of happy customers, satisfied customers that we do have with us. Because if you look into the scaling up that the happy customers can yield and can actually do for us. Changes in process, system, and culture. If you look into, it's always a kind of, let's say, learning process and adaptation process. What we actually learn in our earlier strategy with our customers, we can get the insight from that, and we can reinvest that insight, and we can, let's say, use that insight into our next strategy. And also we need to look into using the CRM not only in our own perspective, but also other different players, or let's say the intermediaries as well. So think about someone placed the order on, let's say, Kogan.com. All right. So you are running your portal Kogan.com, but as soon as a customer or a consumer places an order, you are literally disseminate the information or share the information with all different intermediaries, right? So different ways. If sometimes you also share this information with the suppliers as well, or the producer as well. Let's say somewhere they are actually producing the product and then do the shipment to you or to your customers. They actually have, let's say, the clear indication how this all goes on with their kind of intervention, right? How we look into the benefit of, or benefits of CRM. What are the kind of benefits we can draw from here, right? So the acquisition cost of new customers is always high. Why? Because some of the customers might be the loyal customer of our competitors. So in that case, we have to convince them by using or by proposing different kinds of value proposition. that could be a big challenge, right? We might have to approach to a new medium or a new, let's say, platform to deliver our messages, right? So because the segment can be different, all right, and the kind of approaches to deliver the message, they might not be using, let's say, TV advertisement. They might be using, let's say, social media platform, and we have to use a pay-per-click strategy for them. That means we again need to redistribute our budget, right? Long-term customers spend more money than the new ones. Why? Because they are actually not price sensitive, in a sense that because they are the loyal customers. If you look into the elasticity approach, so these customers, long-term customers or loyal customers, they actually are not, their demand is not actually elastic. All right, so their demand is literally inelastic. Little changes in the price, their reaction is not that negative, and that benefits, right? So that benefits in a sense that if we are not spending a lot into our advertisement or promotional budget, that will not negatively impact our customer base or market share. Happy customers refer their friends and colleagues, right? So if you look into in different ways, right? So the kind of, let's say, CLV or customer lifetime value, we do talk about it. A happy customer brings more customers with you, right? And the kind of strategies we are using to enhance or to induce different kinds of knowledge about our product or the features of the product. Those happy customers literally like to share this information about their positive experiences or the additional values that we are claiming or we are sharing or we are embedding. They like to talk about it. They like to share about it. And that literally benefits. So one of the interesting research by Nielsen company, we know that one of the leading marketing research companies, right? So Nielsen research is that how consumers rely on information. So information from, let's say, advertisement, different kinds of, let's say, online, offline advertisement, information by PR, public relations, right? Information by other different kinds of approaches from the marketers, or information comes from another source. Another source is, let's say, the kind of information they are receiving from their social network, from their family members or close friends. Now, which one is influencing them more? Whether it's a kind of marketer's claim or whether it's a kind of closed network or social network, which literally help them to take a decision. So as a consumer, we can see different factors influence their decision making, right? So many factors can be, it can be situational factors or it can be the informational factors, right? So that research literally help us to understand, okay, if we are considering about the use of, let's say, social CRM, then it literally benefits because we can literally see that how one particular close group or let's say a particular connected group literally share the information, right? We also need to look into other different perspective, right? So current customers are willing to pay more for the products or services, right? So eventually, if you're looking into the proliferation of the brand, that means you're extending the brand. So the current customers like to try the new one, all right? So they know that there's less risk because they are with the brand. So they know about the features of the brand, all right? So in that case, they might also try to do that. Interesting thing is that if you are looking into different, let's say, insight from both current customers and the new customers in this diagram, right? So happy customers, unhappy customers, and new customers. So what is the problem with the new customers? So the high cost of acquisition, the acquisition cost is very, very high. And I have explained that one. There might be so many different reasons to access to those customer base or customer segment, all right? And also try to convert them as a loyal customer. It takes time. So some of the customers might not be the loyal, they might be the switcher, right? So think about different kinds of loyalty. We do talk about hardcore loyalty, right? So we do talk about, let's say, general loyal customers. We looked into the switchers as well. And marketers' strategy on all of these are also different. You guys are familiar with different kinds of loyal customers, right? So yes, no? Different kinds of loyal customers. Can anyone give me the example of a hardcore loyal customer with their brand?
that the same thing as a raving fan? Sorry, that's the one I've heard of.
Which brand? Sorry, Michael.
I've heard the concept of a raving fan as like it's like a ladder of loyalty, I believe.
Yes, yes, correct.
It might not be the same thing, but
yes. If we look into that, another interesting concept as you looked into the kind of extreme level of loyalty, and they are practicing a kind of tribalism, right? If they look into, they are all behaving alike, and it's a kind of a strong brand community you could look into, like Harley Davidson as an example, right? If you look into Harley owners group, very hard to change their opinion, right, about their brand. That is one kind of, let's say, extreme level of loyalty. But you might also see that, think about a difference between Harley and Indian. You know that both of these are actually bikes brand, right? But how Harley Davidson is actually constantly focusing on the tribalism strategy with their consumers, right? That is one way of looking into, right? So thanks for sharing, Michael. Other kinds of loyalty as well we can look into, but the strategy that we are using to convert the existing customers to the loyal customers, it goes with the time, right? If you look into Douglas Holt, so the professor of marketing, esteemed professor of marketing, talked about the kind of, let's say, short-term strategy and long-term strategy to convert your existing customers to loyal customers, right? So according to Douglas Holt, empowerment would be critical. So how we are empowering our existing customers. So empowering means that solving the problem, different types of problem. Let's say the quality-based problem, all right? Or maybe sometimes the price-based problem, or sometimes, let's say, the emotional perspective or symbolic perspective, right? Or maybe the cultural perspective. So different ways we look into the kind of, let's say, a solution of the problems a particular brand can do. An amazing angle to analyze that, how we can empower a customer. Not all the companies are using this kind of approaches. You'll see that in many cases, marketers do talk about loyalty, but these are all push-based loyalty. Push-based loyalty means that the way they are giving them discounts or they are giving them, let's say, loyalty points. And all these are somewhere rather to push them to buy more, right? So that is a kind of problem we can look into. And consumers do understand that eventually anyway. Comparing to the new customers, if you look into the current customers, right? So happy customers, we look into the kind of, let's say, they are bringing currency, right? Unhappy customers are actually a kind of challenge, right? Different ways we look into the successful CRM program, right? If you look into two different blocks, building block 1 and building block 2. So what are the essential materials we need to, we need to look into, right? So why we can see the CRM program become successful, then you need to look into the extraordinary customer services, right? That is critical. The frontline manager or service provider, how they do feel or do believe about the company's philosophy or company's strategy, right? So they also need to, the whole company also need to do the internal marketing. Until the internal marketing is solid, the external marketing will not be actually 100%. So what's the internal marketing actually means? Remember the 360-degree formula of Philip Kotler. So where we look into 4 different viewpoints of understanding marketing. And one of the key components is internal marketing. That means selling is the external marketing, but how we are preparing the sell. If you look into how we are giving the, let's say, the kind of right training to enhance their skill, feeling good to work for the, let's say, organization, because giving them the right reward or acknowledgement through the payment and let's say leveling up their position with the process of time so that they feel a kind of connection. All these are internal marketing, connection with other different departments, internal marketing, facilitation, connection, all these are internal marketing with other different, let's say, finance department, HR department, procurement department, right? So they all are fulfilling the common objective of the organization. So this is internal marketing, and that is a reflection on the customer services. If you look into McDonald's, they are champion on internal marketing. That's why they're champion on external marketing as well. Apple, They are very good in internal marketing. That's why the reflection you can see in the output, similar like in Google as well. So if we look into the extraordinary customer services, so that needs to be designed way before. Material and technology as well. If you look into different kinds of, let's say, program, we are looking into different kinds of instrument and technology we're looking into, right? So think about in CRM perspective, how we are using technology or infrastructure of the technology so that we can consider ourselves connected with the consumer. So think about the kind of, let's say, approaches by using AI, artificial intelligence, and chatbot, right? So thinking about, okay, how we are using AI to constantly considering providing the services to the consumers. And also relying on data, information, constantly focusing on the kind of information. As a CRM, the conventional approaches of CRM is collecting data, generating the leads, right? Different ways we can look into that. And lead generation is very, very essential. That literally benefits the marketers to expand their market share. But without data, it becomes a bit problematic. And this is where we can see the starts of social CRM, because from the social media, how we can pull the data and distill the data to create more leads generation, right? That's block one. In block two, we look into the kind of, let's say, consumer behavior, right? So think about how the CRM becomes successful of understanding why and how consumers make decision. If you look into the customer experience journey, right? So we remember we talked about it, the customer experience, when the customers actually start feeling the need of a product, right? And then they move forward, searching the information in different platforms, right? Or different sources, searching from online or offline, talk about it, getting the information. And then the next stage is compare and contrast this information, right? So they might actually use their existing perception, or they also look into each of these and let's say sit down and do research, which one they will be preferring. It all depends on their level of involvement. High involved product, right? More research. Low involvement product, that means 1 kilo potato or sugar, less research, right? Now, interesting thing is that after the research or evaluation of alternatives, they purchase. When they purchase, how they actually connected with their journey, and marketers induce information or help on that, and then post-purchase. Now, all of these are as a kind of process, right? Now, if you look into the customer or consumer decision making, right? So marketers' intervention on pre, during, and post, 3 different stages on the customer journey. And each of these different stages, what kind of a strategy they are using with CRM. If you look into in pre stages, right? So they haven't purchased the product, what kind of platform we are using, right? So that we can literally interact with our customers. If you look into owned, all right, or shared, different ways we can actually look into and connect this one. Similar like that on let's say during consumption and post consumption, right? Psychological influence is also very, very essential to look into. So we do categorize it, the kind of, let's say, information from consumers or their behavior. We do categorize from cultural perspective or socio-cultural perspective, right? Different factors, these are uncontrollable. So think about, let's say, cultural values, languages, or think about lifestyle, right? Morals, rituals. If you look into different kinds of rituals, not only the cultural rituals, right? All these are different factors that influence individuals or consumers, their decision makings, right? So we have to collect information about that. So when we are using CRM, all these variances information literally enrich our strategies to identify how consumers make decision. Consumers, let's say in Asian cultural background comparing to the South American cultural background, so their decision making would be quite different, right? And that information literally help us to create a profile about the consumers. Similar like that, from, let's say, sociocultural or sociological influences, let's say the strata or let's say affordability of the consumers, right? That is also relevant. Social class system, right? That's also very, very important to look into. Psychological as well. Think about the individuals, their personalities, right? So their motivation or even their learning as well, how this influences, or maybe their memory, think about, all right? So how does that affect on their decision. So when we look into the second building block, all these different kinds of sources of information literally help marketer to make their CRM strategies and become successful. Now, moving towards from conventional approaches to the advanced level of CRM, but for that we have to understand how using technology literally help marketers thinking about different ways. We do talk about different kinds of approaches to collect information and using this information. So we can see the blogs or wikis or social networking that literally help, the marketers. The second one is online communities, different kinds of, let's say, brand communities or close online communities and social media platform, hosted call centers, as well as if you look into different ways marketers do rely on, let's say, collecting information from the call centers as a kind of one-to-one interaction with the clients or customers and their, let's say, call center service provider. Now we are using we are advanced into that, using different kinds of automated, let's say, collection of the data with let's say robots or robotics. You are using that, right? But the most important perspective of Web 2.0, that means two-way interaction, is the customer information management system, which is also a CRM-based system, right? So where we actually look into collecting information from different ways of our consumers, right? If you look into the kind of approaches the marketers do use by this kind of by using this kind of Web 2.0, right? So they normally do listen to what the consumers do expect, the kind of sentiments of those consumers, right? They are using two-way interaction with not only, let's say, giving them the idea to use the product, but also to communicate. And as they do use a two-way interaction, they can enhance the engagement, right? So which is one way or other a kind of benefits that is passed to the consumers, right? Now, from here, if you look into different kinds of let's say challenges marketers do experience with the existing CRM, different kinds of challenges, right? So challenges would be, let's say, to get the comprehensive approaches of collecting data. One of the challenges would be, okay, if the existing leads or the information they have collected is not helping them or is not benefiting them, all right? So that's why the traditional CRM not always benefit, because it manage the static customer data, right? So let's say static data means that, let's say, the past purchase information, or maybe the history of the customers or customers demographic, all right? But the interesting thing is that when we look into the social CRM, this actually literally adds deeper layer of information onto the traditional CRM by adding the data derived from different social networks, right? Like social networks like Twitter, Facebook, or LinkedIn, or any other publicly, let's say, shared information. So when we look into the social CRM, right? So this actually literally help the marketers to get the wide varieties of the data comparing to the CRM. So social engagement is adding more into the prospects or into the leads. If you are considering that, in different ways we look into the social CRM, all right, benefits, because here you are listening. Okay, so you're running different kinds of programs, and that programs pool the data. If you look into encapture, right? So that pool the data, and from that you can run the encapture to create a lot of different kinds of, let's say, deliverables. Let's say you create the word cloud, or maybe you are using ethnography, right? So and that can literally help you to understand what is the, let's say, sentiment of the consumers, right? You can also increase the customer service as well. Think about the social media, let's say, strategy marketers are using. So if they are embedding normally social media with the CRM, right? So they can actually collect more inbound customers inquiries, right? So inbound customers inquiries literally help them to, let's say, store this information into their CRM system or data bank, and they can always use this one to generate insight for, let's say, providing services for other consumer base or other segment. And the most important one is personalization or personalized marketing strategy. All right, so this literally help them to, let's say, depend more on generalizing the strategy was individual needs, right? So if you are looking into different kinds of, let's say, data we are collecting or pulling from social media platform, we can easily create the audience segments, right? And based on these dynamic audience segment, we can use our strategies based on what they require, right? So that's the kind of approaches we are using with social CRM, and that's help us to stand out from our existing CRM propositions, right? How to set up the social CRM. So important thing in social CRM, which is slightly advanced from the CRM, is listening. All right. So how we are pulling the data, but the data is not, let's say, idle. We have to distill it, and we need to actually looking into what the customers or consumers literally, let's say, shared with this information, shared with the data. In marketing, normally, in particularly social media marketing, listening is the key factor to, let's say, become successful and overcome the challenges, right? I did mention in session 1 and 2, in both sessions, that why listening is critical, right? Not only let's say in social media strategy, but also overall marketing strategy, listening our customers. If you look into Nielsen research, 88% unsatisfied customer out of 100, right? Unsatisfied customer, 88% customers do not provide you any feedback. All right, excuse me. They don't feel to give a feedback, right? Now that's not their mistake. That is a mistake by the marketers, because they were not able to convince them to give the feedback. First point is that they are not happy. Second point is that they are not giving any feedback. Now, out of 100, only 12% unhappy customers giving you feedback. That is not a problem. We can always rectify our let's say, mistake by listening those 12% customers' feedback. But the customers who are not giving feedback is a bit more problem, right? So we need to actually use different kinds of strategy so that we can collect information, collect data, right, from them, and using social CRM would be the right fit here to overcome these kind of challenges. We also need to consolidate the social interaction as well, the kind of embedding the CRM with the kind of social CRM, right? Because if you look into different kinds of programs or platforms they are using, right, their strategy, this is where you can have more control on your decision, particularly focusing on what kind of content you will be sharing with them, because you have already collected the information from the earlier post of the consumers, right? And then you can refine your kind of, let's say, strategies. If you look into different kinds of CRM, social CRM tools, right? So some of these not limited to. So you can look into Hootsuite, right? You can look into Salesforce. Salesforce has been doing amazingly well. They are the existing, let's say, market leader on CRM, but they are now on particular segments though, but not whole world. Particular segments they're doing amazingly well. Salesforce, La Trobe University is using Salesforce. That's very interesting. But they are also using the social CRM. Microsoft Dynamics or Zendesk, they are all using the social CRM, right? If you look into the kind of growth of the CRM and a kind of evolvement with the social CRM, you can see so many different reasons behind it, right? So number of internet users are increasing, active social media users are increasing, right? Even the mobile users are also increasing, and social media users are also increasing. So all these different ways we can look into a kind of, let's say, need, because all the kind of connection with the social media, all right, shares a kind of common goals or objectives, right? How they are all connected with the kind of social connection. And from there, we can draw the information, right? A common viewpoint to see the traditional CRM based on marketing, sales, service, IT, and support, right? So the traditional CRM, what let's say benefits it can actually gives on marketing point of view. So you can communicate with your target audiences with the kind of information you are disseminating, right? It can benefit as a kind of communication approaches. In social CRM, it literally helps you to engage more with a kind of two-way interaction. All right. So in this way, by using the social CRM, because you are using the social media platform, an existing social media platform, right? So you can always distill the kind of information and personalize the information. CRM is sales driven, but social CRM is not the sales driven, but it is a, let's say, it's a one way of increasing the kind of connectivity which convert the consumers or persuade the consumers to buy in future, right? The services as well, if you look into the normal CRM is operated within the hours or the channels directed by the company. So they can actually use the existing channels, but in social CRM, it is actually a little bit more fluid comparing to the existing CRM. And in support, if you look into in IT and support, social CRM is a little bit more expanded comparing to the normal CRM, because it's not only using the existing data bank, but in the same time, it also evolved with the inside of the data bank as well. All right. Any question, guys, so far? Any questions so far?
Nothing so far.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Jack. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, if you look into the kind of managing the social CRM and customer satisfaction, so how we look into, right? Normally in traditional CRM, we do collect, manage, and act on the customer data, right? So, but managing the social CRM, you not only collect the data, but you also engage with your customers with the kind of, let's say, brand exposure that literally help you to drive the sales, right? Eventually, if you are focusing on let's say helping the customers with sharing information, that's another way around, right? If you're sharing information, how to use the product, or how to, let's say, get the 100% or additional benefit out of the product, right? So in that case, social CRM is much more interactive, right? We are using different kinds of support system with social CRM. If you're looking into comparing to the conventional CRM, right? So as a kind of customer assistance, live customer assistance through the social media platform. We also need to look into the bad kind of experiences, overcoming the bad kind of experiences if we are using the conventional CRM or traditional CRM, right? So what are some of the challenges with the traditional CRM, right? So some of the, let's say, common problem with the traditional CRM is that you are not personalizing the information, and you're actually sending a generalized information to everyone without considering the problem can be diverse, the problem can be different, right? And that creates more challenge in a sense that to the consumers experience, okay, no interaction, no connectivity, no engagement. And that's why they have some or other dissatisfaction, which eventually increase, let's say, more resistance from the consumer's point of view, right? And in that case, social CRM literally help to overcome that kind of challenges. What we look into, the consumers normally do, if if they are not satisfied, if the whole information dissemination is not personalized, all right, or let's say the kind of approaches marketers do use not to solve their problem or to empower them, right? So the customers in let's say responses are sometimes extreme. Okay, if you look into some of these are publicly take legal action, right, against a business, or let's say complain to different governmental agency, ACCC, let's say, right? Different ways we look into, or privately complain to the business, directly complain to the business, right? So the business might have their own, let's say, department handling the customer feedback or negative feedback, all right? So how they are dealing with that. So some rather they are proactively, let's say, using their strategies to make those customers happy or satisfied. But eventually, in reality, not all the companies or all the institutions are using that strategy. You stop buying the product or services, as I've indicated to you. Some consumers do not give any feedback. They switch from their, let's say, a brand to another brand or their competitor's brand. So that can be one way of looking into, or that can be goes to a different direction. Let's say they might provide negative feedback, right, in their social media platform, or maybe in Google reviews, right, or maybe in opinions, right, another platform where consumers provide feedback, or maybe other different ways to deal with, maybe share that one with their friends. So that is a cognitive dissonance level. All this you've looked into is a kind of negative experiences, or maybe they don't take any action. You guys might familiar with the Pampers brand, right? So what happened with the Pampers with the kind of the social media community? Do you know that particular case study, guys? The Pampers brand case study? What happened with one of the mothers? She provided a feedback to Pampers that the new line of the baby nappies or diaper, so it was supposed to absorb more liquid, right? But it was more, it's thin, but has a capacity to, it's a kind of innovation. So to absorb more liquid, right? But interesting thing is that it was an irony that when the mother purchased the new line, right, of the Pampers baby nappies, used it for the kid, there's a kind of rashes, right, skin rashes. So she actually goes to the GP, went to the GP, and the GP said that, okay, change the nappy, put some, let's say, pseudo cream, and then it worked, right? And then she, by her own responsibility and curiosity, put this information to the Pampers brand, okay? And Pampers brand said that the responses were that we have checked it, and our let's say response is that is in a scattered case. Our observation and research says that other consumers didn't find this kind of issue, all right? Then she created a social media group. Quickly, she found that other mothers and have the same kind of anxiety because their children, their kids exposed to similar kind of skin problem, rash problem. Quickly, the whole groups become 1 million followers or subscriber or followers, right? And then they start resisting against the Pampers brand. They start boycotting the brand. Okay, so interesting thing is that if you look into the way we do talk about interacting with our customers by using social media itself wouldn't be 100% if we are not using the social CRM, okay? Because we are not only looking into the data, but we're also giving them, let's say, the right information and giving them the, let's say, information so that they benefit from this information, right? Because how we see this in social CRM, who is dealing with the data, all right? If it is a normal social media strategy, one particular department might be dealing with the data. But if it is social CRM, all through, the decision makers can access to this information and they can literally look into what's been happening, right? One of the classic examples for the social CRM is Nivea, right? So the Borsdorf company, the German company, how effectively they are using the social CRM strategies, right? So their strategies are some rather to convert the consumer's opinion about their product quality, right? So and they're really proactive in their social media platform. What kind of data we need to collect, right? If we are considering. So for the customer database, we have to collect any kind of personal information, right? So the personal information in a sense that tracking the old behavior, purchase behavior, right? If you look into different kinds of, let's say, action or the reaction of the consumers, right? So we have collected the earlier data. Those data maybe, let's say, based on their experiences, all right? Those data based on maybe which channel they have used to purchase the product. The experiences can be positive or negative, but we need to have those data, right? We also need to look into the kind of the responses. It can be, let's say, through social media, but we have to get those real-time data, right? And this literally help, this kind of personal information literally help the marketer to build their insight. Data from demographic perspective, let's say age, gender, the occupation or ethnicity, all these information, we can also look into that. And the kind of adaptation or assimilation of the marketing strategy also depends on that, isn't it? Internet information. So what kind of, let's say, behavior we can look into, internet connectivity, the spending the time on internet, which particular platform they are using, right? Which social media they are using. So all these are essential for them to look into, because also help us to build the kind of the persona of the target audiences, right? Transaction data, when they buy, how much they buy, how frequently they have purchased, all this information. Similar like that, lifestyle and psychographic data. So individual personality, right? Or lifestyle or values they've been carrying. Profile of the past responses, right? Different kinds of responses they might have. And this can literally help, let's say, whether they have shared information with others, right? Tweet, retweet, or kind of engagement, or let's say kind of complaints. That's also essential on our individual consumers profile or the data bank, right? So whether that particular complaint has been handled or not. All these different kinds of database we look into need to be collected. Using the social CRM database literally benefit the marketers in different ways. This can actually help us to segment the market. All right. So if you're looking into each of these different, let's say, data bank from different behaviors or individual behaviors or responses on social media platform, and running the social CRM literally help us to categorize and classify their behavior. The second one is 80-20 principle. You guys are familiar with that, right? In different ways we are using it. That means the 20% consumers generating 80% revenue, right? So we have to find out those customer base, right? Excuse me. So those customer base, right? So because we are using the built-in social CRM, and that is from connected with the social media platform, literally help to get the insight of all those customers who are sharing their experiences, positive experiences, right? So and that's how we can, let's say, use let's say the social CRM benefiting those 20% customers, right? Because we can use our support team to empower them. All right, we can understand their behavior, these 20% consumers audiences. All right, and because we are collecting the real-time data from those consumers, right? And those data literally help us to create valuable insights, right? And that's why we can actually also design the relevant content from this insight for those consumers, right? If you're looking into improve your brand and reach to the particular target leads, social CRM would benefit you. Not only these 20% consumers, but 20% consumers will be bringing more consumers, right? We can also use social CRM to focus on the recency, frequency, monetary analysis. So that means when the consumers has purchased, they do actually share the information about their purchase recorded, right? So how frequently they have purchased, and we can analyze it. Similar like sentiment analysis, we can also look into that. And lastly, but most importantly, the analyzing of the CLV, or customer lifetime value, right? So how we are measuring the customer lifetime value to the consumers who are with the brand, right? So think about the amount of share of wallet. We do talk about the share of wallet of the consumers spending on our particular brand constantly, right? And their let's say constant engagement literally help us to measure our position into the marketplace, and social CRM literally help to deal with that. Different kinds of programs we look into in two different ways. So social CRM to build awareness, and social CRM to increase sales, right? So social CRM can be used to enhance the web traffic, all right? So you are using different kinds of, let's say, strategies to increase, let's say, your strategy. How you do that? You are listening your customers, right? So it's a kind of social listening. So when you do listen, so you actually use this strategy to let's say analyze this information, bulk amount of information you are collecting, and then you can build your insight to redesign your content, right? And all these contents, let's say it can be, you can monitor these listening, and then you can design the content, and you are posting this content, and this is the way you become much more, let's say, interactive with your consumers. And this is the way you can increase the web traffic, right? You can also look into the kind of, let's say, sales volume trends. Okay, so volume trend searches, right? So how many people actually searches this information. You can also look into the number of followers, or number of users, or even number of, let's say, mentions about a particular, let's say, topic or particular hashtag, right? So how many people actually shared that. Similar like awareness of the brand, you can also look into increasing the sales, converting to the existing opinion to the sales, right? So you can again look into the social mentions and also repeat visits or active engagement, all right? And then you can also look into the acceptance rate as well. So who has visited, how frequently they visited, and then eventually how they convert from, let's say, existing social media users to a existing buyer, right? There's some challenges as well on social CRM if you're looking into what kind of information we need to deal with. All right, so identifying the essential information is one kind of challenge that the marketers do experience, because the amount of volume of data, social media data, is very hard to distill. All right, so it can become a big challenge. So focusing on the wrong data maybe sometime a kind of waste of time. All right. And also keeping up with the new platforms and trends, because different consumer groups, they are using different kinds of social medias, right? So how many different social medias you'll be dealing with? So you should have a team that are actually well equipped and skillful. They have deeper knowledge about dealing with all these different social media platforms, right? Focusing on your target consumer base. Another challenge is interesting is transforming your customer data into the kind of a strategy, right? So you could also look into, sometime we look into metadata or let's say social media data is a huge amount of data, but how you will be converting that one to let's say strategy. Sometimes the data are qualitative. Can we convert those qualitative data to quantitative data? So that requires a kind of a skill development, but it's not that simple, right? So it's difficult. Sometimes the immediate results is not there, right? So if you look into, we are using social CRM, but can we get quick and prompt outcome from that one? It's also needs to be adjusted, but it takes time, right? All right, so any question, guys, so far? Any question?
Nothing from me, no.
Thank you, Michael.
No, nothing yet, sir.
Okay, right, so let's move to the second part. So could you please look into the reading, right? So I've shared the reading. Could you please go to session 9 or topic 9, to the Harvard Business Review reading that I've shared with you. Can you see the reading, guys?
Yep, got it.
Okay, so could you please open the reading? Your company should be helping your customer, right? So on social media, let's say strategy we are considering, but how we actually look into. So please start look into the reading. It's not going to take you more than 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, right? So if you're looking into that, and after that, we will be discuss on the insight of this HBR paper, right? So let's start, please. Hi, Ran. Ran, have you submitted your first assignment? I don't see any submission from you, Ran. Ran Shao?